Hey friends, over 60% of you are listening to me right now on an Apple product. iPhone, iPad, iTunes. I need your help. The truth is, Apple will make this podcast more discoverable to new listeners the more reviews it has. So I'm here asking you to take a moment and leave a review. If you've gained any value from this podcast, the greatest thing you can do for it, besides spreading the word and telling friends, is leaving a review. It's real simple. If you're on your phone, head over to my podcast page within the Apple Podcast app and leave a review. Or if you're on a computer, you can head over to my podcast page within the iTunes app. That's it. That's all I ask. And if you have other podcasts that you love, do them a favor and do the same for them. It'll make their day. Now let's get this podcast started already. It's always nice to meet new people on Instagram, and I think you and I have been communicating now for roughly probably about 2 months. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay,
sure.
Great. Yeah, so we've been at it for about 2 months talking on Instagram, and I just, maybe we can actually start out our whole thing, our whole conversation about Instagram, because that's how we met, and that's how a lot of us meet is on Instagram. And as it relates to, were you on Instagram prior to kind of your whole weight loss journey, or how did all that come about with Instagram for you?
Well, I had my account for several years, and where I was attempting to lose weight,
right.
Many different programs that I had tried before previously. So, I decided that I was going to pursue weight loss surgery. So basically start a whole new chapter of that. I basically cleared off all that historical stuff on this Instagram account and started over so I could document everything. It's been a pretty crazy experience.
So the same account, you just kind of hit the reset button on it.
Yep. I mean, I think I set up that account back when Instagram first came to be. I hate to date myself, all the kids are going to be like, oh my God, how old is this chick? But no, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago when I first started it. So, background behind me is that I've been obese my entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, I came out of the womb overweight. It's just how it was.
Me too.
And, I should really post one of my baby pictures where my brother is holding me, my older brother, and I'm probably about 6 months old, and I'm bigger than him, and he's like 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
I was just a really, really fat baby.
Yeah.
And then I proceeded to just be a really fat kid growing up as a young kid. So I wasn't very active. I was a nerd, and I've always lived my entire life, as a fairly large person. And so the past year has been definitely kind of a weird mental experiment for me too, because I'm healthier today than I was in grade school. It's bizarre,
What was your childhood like? I mean, did you have to deal with a lot of, bullying and other kids picking on you? Did you have to deal with a lot of that?
I did. Mostly it was because I grew up in a neighborhood full of boys and I was like the only girl.
Right.
And so in addition to that, being picked on for that, I was also the chunky, awkward girl that had the thick glasses and, she wasn't athletic, so yeah, they tried to pick on me, but like my brother, he was older than me. So of course, when we were still in school together, he would nip all of that in the bud. So it's funny because I actually grew up as a very, very shy child.
Really?
And then, yeah, I was extremely shy. I buried myself in the books and I just never really came up for air. And then I guess it was about my junior year of high school. I had to switch high schools in the middle of my high school career. So when I switched over to a different high school, my personality just snapped and I came out of my shell and just was wide open ever since.
Now I was about to say, because I know, like with the Instagram, one of the things that really drew me to your account was the fact, like, I watched all of your stories and you just have such this great personality. It really shines. And I'm just kind of like, wow, when you're telling me you're shy, I get it a lot too, in the sense of, because I always in nature very shy. Like I felt like if we were sitting in the same room doing this podcast, probably the first 10 or 15 minutes I would be extremely shy. And then, we started to talk and I'd open up. But like, people tell me all the time, they're like, I don't believe for a second that you're shy. And I'm like, oh, well, you have no idea. Believe me.
It's funny because I'm also like, even though I am outgoing now compared to the way I used to be,
Right.
I'm still very much one of those, what do they call it, an extroverted introvert.
Okay.
So I'm very social. Like I enjoy talking to people or whatever, but I get very exhausted from it. So I have to kind of retreat back and have quiet time in order for me to kind of reset myself. So I do tend to be a little bit wide open and sometimes a little unfiltered.
Yeah.
But there will come a time when I start getting tired. You can tell because I go quiet very, very fast and just kind of shut down. It's really funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, it's kind of like, it's that first, when you first meet somebody, you're kind of quiet, reserved, and very, very shy. And then once you kind of get to talking, then it starts to open up. But like a podcast, like, I don't know, it just seems like easier. Like we've never talked a second before this other than through text-based conversation on like DMs, and like, it's like we've been talking for, I don't know, like months, maybe even a year. It's so comfortable.
And Instagram's a different beast when it comes to social media, and I think it's because of the stories feature now.
Yes.
And, since I've been active in the weight loss surgery community, specifically, I've met so many people. You really do feel, and all of a sudden you meet face to face and you literally pick up where the storylines left off. And it's a very bizarre thing. You start off very nervous when you meet people for the first time.
Yeah.
But then it's just like an old family member you're being reunited with after years and years, It's
yeah.
It's really a neat experiment for sure.
How many people would you say that you've met from Instagram?
Oh gosh, at this point, I'm probably at 100 to 150, maybe.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and it's because I went to, I went to a very large meetup in Orlando last year.
Right.
And then we hosted one in Atlanta, a group of us did. So, between those, and then I also visited Birmingham. They had a meetup out there. So between those meetups, that was probably the bulk of the people that I've met. But as people have traveled to Atlanta, or if I've traveled in their city, we've had, various small hookups, and it's been really, really fun and exciting.
Fantastic. Now, we're talking about, kind of your childhood, being overweight, and I can certainly identify with that. What is the point where you say, I really want to make a change. It's time to make a change. I feel like in everybody that I've talked to, it's always been like there was like a moment or something happened or whatnot that kind of triggered it. What was it for you that made you want to start going in the other direction?
It's kind of been a series of things, and I think you'll relate to what I'm going to get to when I get to the end of the story. But
okay,
my entire life I've been overweight. I've always wanted to do something about it, but I just was never able to figure out exactly how to do it.
Yes,
and get consistent results. Like I would lose a little bit of weight, get really excited, go right back to bad habits, and just start all over again, and gain some weight in the process. So I basically was on like the Oprah Winfrey plan, like I don't know if many people remember that, but like back in the 80s and 90s, she would lose weight and then like gain it back plus another 50 pounds, so
yeah, that's
kind of what happened with me over the years. And, even though, my highest weight at one point was 350 pounds. And even though I had progressed up to that size, I was still a pretty confident human being.
Right.
I still lived a pretty active lifestyle. I didn't think that I was sheltering myself too much and hindering myself. And then things started hurting.
Yeah.
I'm almost 40 years old.
Okay.
And I've never really realized my age until things started hurting, and I started having issues with my knees and issues with my feet. And that's when the reality started setting in, like, oh gosh, you've got to really start considering some things. But, in your mid-30s, things are supposed to start hurting, right? That's what your parents tell you and everything.
Oh, yeah. You hear it all the time.
Oh, honey, that's called just getting older.
Yes.
It happens. So I was like, okay, well, I'll figure out a way to get to where I need to go. And then I'm not going to kid you here, Gary. Some of my favorite musicians started passing away.
Yeah.
And we lost Prince.
Mm.
We lost George Michael. We lost David Bowie. We lost Scott Weiland. We started losing all of these important musicians that were such an important part of my teenage years, my early 20s. And that's when I finally realized that I was almost 40 years old. That's when I started realizing, I was like, oh my gosh, we're hitting that period of our lives where, you know, things from our childhood are going to start slipping away from us. And that's when I started having a reality check that, you know, almost half my life is gone.
Yeah.
And that's when I finally decided, and I was like, you know, that's it. I'm making a change. So yeah, that long story was basically to the point of the fact that I was depressed after Prince died, and I was like, that's it.
So music's a big thing for you.
Very big. Very
Same
big.
here.
And I think, you know, when I wasn't going outside and being active, like I lost a lot of like my emotions and stuff in music as a kid. You know, I was a little angsty, maybe a little emo, you know, and
I can identify with that.
There's that little emo phase I kind of dabbled in, you know, and, you know, when I was in high school, that's when the grunge era popped up.
Right.
So you had a lot of angsty music that just really got to the hardcore, you know, emotions that you're feeling as a late teen, early, you know, 20 something. And so I just started getting really wrapped up in music, you know, and, so like losing Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh my God.
That was such a hard one for me. And, you know, Prince has been my favorite artist since I even knew what music was outside of like the Disney stuff when you're a kid. Like he was like the first real artist that I knew.
Right.
And so, you know, just all those things, you start gaining perspective and you start hearing these stories about these guys that are, you know, passing away due to substance abuse. And, you know, I start thinking about my life and I'm like, man, food is basically my substance that I'm abusing. And,
oh my God. Yeah.
you know, it all started kind of coming full circle for me. And I was like, you know, that's it. I've already spent 40 years of my life a certain way. I'm not spending the next 40 like this. So that's basically the wordy version of where I am today.
Yeah, the food is, I mean, I don't know that it gets talked about enough how big of a problem it can really be, the impact it can have on your life. I mean, I can only speak on my experience, but I had like the worst addiction problem to McDonald's where I was going every single day. I have like an hour and a half commute and I was stopping every single day on the way home from work and then going home and eating dinner like nothing was wrong. I don't think it gets brought up enough how big of an impact food addiction has on one's life. Would you think that's a fair statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, you know, there are certain personalities that have more of a tendency to lean towards addiction. And, you know, some people can get wrapped up in something very easily and others can't. And I think that people don't, you know, they aren't honest enough with themselves to recognize if they've got some sort of a dependency on something that's not a healthy dependency.
Yeah.
And, you know, it took me going through this experience over the past couple of years to realize, oh my gosh, I really do have a food addiction problem. You know, I didn't relate to some of the things that you see on TV where you see these people that just sit around their house and they've got like empty food containers piled everywhere. You have these images of what a food addict is, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't relate to any of that, right? Because I'm functioning in society like a normal human being.
Yeah, you just want your food, basically.
Yeah. And then suddenly you realize on the other side of it, oh my gosh, how emotionally attached you are to certain things. And I didn't have a particular food.
Yeah.
I liked all the foods, all of them.
You were equal opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
I don't know if you ever got this, but I could tell you, Jessica, that I used to plan days around where I was going to go and eat. That used to be a thing. Like I would say, okay, well, I'll go here because they have this really good pizza place or this really good sub place. And like that was, weekends became that. It was like, where am I going to go? Oh, well, where am I going to eat? And then I'll base it off of that.
Oh, hands down. Yes.
Yeah.
And if I ever made plans to go to a particular type of restaurant with one of my friends,
right,
I was looking at the menu like days in advance.
Yeah, like
it was this
Yelp or
big
something.
deal. Yes. Like I would go and I'd look at pictures on Yelp and be like, "Ooh, what is that? Let me go read it on the menu." And I'm like, I would obsess over what I was going to eat for that one meal and would get so worked up and excited about it.
Oh, I don't know about you, Jessica, but I had Yelp on the front of my phone. Like it was on the first page of my iPhone. It was on the front page of my apps was Yelp, and I was just scrolling through that thing daily.
Oh yeah. I have like I'm terrible. I'm one of those people that I literally have like probably 400 apps on my phone and I just don't delete any of them.
Same here, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I've got them like filed away. I actually have a dining one.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it right now, and I promise you, I've got at least 45 restaurants apps in that dining thing.
Oh my
Between
goodness.
Dunkin' Donuts and, Starbucks and, all these different places that I would go to. And I'm like, why did I need an app for every single one of these places? Why didn't I just get up off my butt and walk in to get my sandwich? Why did I have to look at these apps? Like, it doesn't even make any sense anymore, like looking back at that.
Well, I'd go crazy if they had like the online ordering, or sometimes they would say, hey, if you use our app, you get this coupon off. And then I'm like all about it. I'm like, all right, I got to get this 10% off or whatever. Like I got to be all about it.
Well, sure. And now I guess Uber has like an Uber Eats, like a
Yes.
delivery service. I mean, I would have gone into bankruptcy having food delivered to my house so I could eat in hiding if need be.
Oh my God.
I would have done that. So, I mean,
I'm with you.
I used to order like food to go pick up.
Right.
And it would be enough food to feed me for a week now. And I would eat it in one meal. It's insane.
Oh
But
my
I tell
goodness.
you, when it was my 1 year surgery,
Yes.
the anniversary of my surgery, I went on my Facebook account and I basically made like a coming out post, if you will, where I just basically announced what I went through. And one of the important things that I wanted to post on there was like, if you are reading this and you are overweight, you have some form of food addiction, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not.
100%.
I mean, it's the truth. At some point you made a decision that food was more important than your health, and you allowed yourself to go overweight. Now, even if you have health issues and stuff, I understand that there's some things there that can cause it. But if you're 20 pounds or more overweight,
Right.
you've made the decision to keep eating bad things and not be able to cut back on your diet some. Look, I get it. I was 350 pounds. And it's a tough thing to say or admit out loud, but it really is the truth. And I think people need to talk about it more often.
Yeah, I think it just takes so long to realize. I had this conversation on one of the previous podcasts. I apologize to the listeners. I don't remember exactly which one, but I know that in previous years, I would remember, like taking a picture or like looking in a mirror and I'd say, okay, I look good. Like I didn't see a problem. Maybe there was a particular day, and this kind of goes back to the emo thing. I used to be in some bands and I would do up the hair right and try to look really cool. And I'm like, okay, take a picture of me like this or whatever. And then I'd see the picture and then it would click. And I'm like, okay, now I see something wrong. I don't know if you ever had that experience where like you felt like everything was where it should be. But then once you look, you finally see that, oh, wait a minute, it's not what I thought it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had body dysmorphia before, weight loss. And I would look in the mirror and I'd be like, oh, girlfriend's looking good. I'm going to go out and strut my stuff. And I was so excited. And then somebody would tag me in a picture on Facebook or something. And I thought I was going to die if I didn't hurry up and untag myself. And I'm like, who is that person,
Yeah.
And
unrecognizable.
Yeah. And it was like, why didn't I not see what other people saw? Well, now I'm having the opposite issue.
Okay.
Now I see that person that was tagged in those photos when I look in the mirror. But in reality, I'm looking like what I thought I was in the mirror years ago. It's bizarre. And like even today, somebody walked up to me at work and said, oh my gosh, you were just absolutely melting away. And I was like, me? Thanks, but not quite. It's a little bit of exaggeration.
It's like you don't see it basically yet. You haven't come to that realization pretty much, or.
Yeah. And I think it's just, I've almost, it's like I've prone myself to think opposite of reality. Like I don't know. It's a mental trip, the whole process.
It really is. I know for months, like when I first started, like I wasn't noticing anything and people would say, oh my God, like, look at you, man, you look incredible. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't see, I'm looking and I just don't see anything.
Yeah, well, Gary Cantrell, you like walk like 350 flights of steps on the freaking stair climber like 6 times a week. I mean, I'm surprised you haven't just gone poof, gone, like disappeared.
The thing about the stairs though, it's interesting. I can tell you that before I started doing anything, going up one flight of stairs was incredibly difficult. Like, I kid you not, Jessica, when I'd get to the top of one flight of stairs, I would be nearly dead. Like, I could not breathe properly. It was a mess. So to be able to go in there and just do 10 flights, which is what I started with when I first ever tried the stairs 3 or 4 months ago, that was a feat in itself, even though I felt pretty much dead after the 10 floors. And then you get to the 100 and it's like, okay, I can't believe I did this. Then you get to the 200. It's like, I definitely can't believe I did this. And then when you hit 300 and you're like, I don't know who this person is anymore. It's a different person.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine because like, I'm so impressed by that. You motivate me so much because, you know, there's like certain accounts, you know, because I'm trying to go pretty beast mode in the gym myself. So there's certain accounts on Instagram that like, if I go to it, I know that I'm going to get motivated by, and you're one of them.
I appreciate that so much.
The other day, I'm at the gym and I was like, well, I've got a few minutes before my next class. I'll just get on the stair climber. You know, yeah. Gary's doing it. I'll go and do it too. Gary, I couldn't last 5 minutes on it. I literally I'm approaching 5 minutes and almost crying. I'm thinking to myself, how in the hell does this man do this? I don't even understand how it's humanly possible.
I get it all the time. People tell me.
It's so impressive.
It just seems like second nature now, but the thing about it is though, is it still kills me. Like, believe me, when I'm done, I'm like literally done with everything. I feel like I just want to crawl in a hole and not wake up for a while, you know? I just feel like my body's just like out of it. And I get in the car, I'm soaking wet. I don't normally go to like the showers or anything. I just literally get in my car and I go home because it's like 2 miles away. I'm fortunate that I don't live too far away from the gym. So I literally just get out of the car and go into the car and go home, and I don't even get in the shower, and I'm just soaking wet. It's almost like walking out of the shower with your clothes on, as if you showered with your clothes on, because I'm just drenched. And I spend like 10 minutes cleaning up the stairs when I'm done because it's just soaked in freaking sweat. It's unbelievable. It is a crazy workout. If you ever think about it, to give it another shot, if you want to stick with it, try it. It's crazy, but I wouldn't recommend it for everybody because it's tough to handle at times.
I mean, I can only imagine like that 5 minutes and I was ready to cry. But, you know, I've been trying to do Couch to 5K.
I was about to ask you about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck right now. I'm stuck and I can't progress right now. So I've just got to keep working my way through it. But,
I'm sorry to cut you off. For people that don't know what that is, because I have heard, a few people talk about it like on Instagram. For somebody that's listening to this, that maybe they're on Instagram, maybe they're not, and they have no idea what Couch to 5K is, how would you sum it up in 3 or 4 sentences?
Let's see. Couch to 5K is like a running interval training application that it basically trains you to progressively increase the distance that you're able to run at any given point. Okay. So, say, for instance, the first week, you may run for 30 seconds, walk for a minute, run for 30 seconds, walk for a minute. And you're just basically conditioning your body to gradually increase the run time and decrease the walking time. The end goal is to ultimately be able to run a 5K in one sitting and not have to stop.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
It's really neat. It's progressive. You know, your body is gradually getting used to that increased distance because running it's pretty heavy impact on your knees and your feet for sure.
Oh my God, yeah.
And you know, those were my 2 problem areas, you know, that I was so concerned about. So I'm kind of hitting right now a period where you're supposed to run 3/4 of a mile, walk for half a mile, run for 3/4 of a mile. And I haven't quite been able to run 3/4 of a mile all the way through yet.
How far can you get?
A little over a half a mile at a time.
Now that's awesome. I can't even make it through 1/10 of a mile
running. See, okay, so this is the thing. You're telling me I'm crazy for the stairs. You can't do the stairs. I'm like, you can run a half a mile. I can't even run a damn tenth of a mile hardly, okay? So
Well, I'm hoping that eventually I can run for an hour and a half, like you could stair climb for an hour and a half. So we'll see. I'm not quite there yet.
Okay,
You know?
fair enough.
But I'm getting there. So right now it's more of a mental battle right now, is that
Sure.
I've got to be okay with just doing this half mile over and over and over again until I can finally get it to where I can run that 3/4 of a mile. And then you just basically keep on going until you can finally run the full 3.1 miles in one sitting. So
I think the toughest thing for me is like the breathing part of it. I have such a hard time sometimes not breathing in general, but just preparing myself to breathe while running or doing something super heavy. You ever have any of those kind of issues?
yes,
Yeah.
because Gary, I smoked for 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I quit smoking July of last year.
Well, virtual
So-
high five on that.
And thank you. And I'm not going to say I've been perfect. I have cheated since then, but I was smoking a pack a day
Yeah.
for 20 years of my life. So I'm definitely say that I've conquered that addiction.
No, that's awesome.
And I tell you, I don't know sometimes whether it's because of having that history of being a smoker or whether it's just the obesity conquering it or what. But I'm like, how do people do this? Like, I feel like I'm gasping.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like a monster on these machines. Like, I look at these really fit people and I'm like, they're breathing normal. So why do I feel like I'm literally gasping for air?
Yeah.
And it's probably a lot of it's just in my head, but that's how it feels to me.
I think it is. I think it's got to be a mental thing, because if our bodies, like, we go and crush a workout, like our bodies are clearly getting better as we go. You mentioned doing the couch to 5K, and I'm talking about the stairs. It's like, I think it's got to be to a certain degree a mental thing. Like in your mind, you think, I'm not ready. Holy crap, I don't know how to breathe or handle this. More so than it is a body thing, because I really feel like our bodies are just getting stronger and stronger by the day.
Sure. When in the past have our lungs ever had that sort of a workout before?
No kidding.
You know, so we're trying to condition our organs to keep up with this now. And I think that's probably why I'm enjoying being in the gym so much more, and I'm becoming more of a gym rat, because I just, there's times where I just get impressed by what my body's capable of doing today.
Yeah. I think the last time I huffed and puffed that hard was when I was at like a McDonald's and I forgot my debit card and I got really mad.
Hey, that's still pretty impressive, because my ass would still be sitting in the drive-thru.
Yeah.
That's what I would have even been going out to the car. So, that is so funny.
So you mentioned
I
becoming
see
like
that.
a gym rat. Like, how many days are you going at this point?
Well, I've been kind of slacking off the past 2 weeks because it's the holidays, and I feel like my life's in chaos right now. But typically, I usually go 4 to 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And then I do a variety of different things, but I usually work out anywhere from an hour to 2 hours each time.
Okay, cool.
So, I try to do couch to 5K at least 3 days a week. That's like a 30-minute routine. But then
Okay.
I take, I take a Zumba class one day. I take a cardio flex one day, which is kind of like a cross between, hand weights and aerobics.
Right.
And then I work out with a trainer one day. And then I'm like freestyling the other 2 days. So I'm trying to get into like lifting heavier.
Yeah.
And I tell you, like, my scale has not been moving at all for the past 2 months, but my
Yeah.
body is changing and shifting so crazy right now. It's a very weird experience. But
How are you handling that mentally?
most of the time I handle it okay, because
Yeah.
I'm starting to be able to visually notice it in the mirror,
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see this different person, and so I can physically see the things. And I haven't been measuring myself. I need to get my tape measure out and measure myself again. But it's hard because I still want to see the number on the scale.
Sure.
Even if I'm becoming more fit and I'm losing inches, I'm so emotionally tied to a number on the scale, and it's so hard to break that habit.
You're not the only one. There are so many people out there that get, so emotionally attached to it. And I think it's downright almost dangerous how much power we put in the scale, how much power we let it take over our mind. When you think about it, I mean, when you look at, you know, just your progress, I mean, you've lost over 100 freaking pounds. So, like, I mean, when you look at it overall in the big picture, it's like, okay, wow, I've done this amazing thing. But when you look at it in the week-to-week sense, I can see a lot of people where they just get so upset because it either goes up, and I see people on Instagram all the time. I mean, I look at everybody's posts, and I'm seeing stuff like, I gained a half a pound, my week is ruined. And I'm just like, look at the bigger picture, folks. Look at all the great you're doing. Look at how or think about how you're feeling. And hopefully at some point that can override and help you to realize that, wow, I've done a lot of cool stuff. And yeah, the number didn't really look so great this week. And maybe part of it is too that we publicize a lot of it. You know, like if you're in the weight loss community on Instagram, I mean, there's, I'm sure, a little bit of that pressure that, hey, well, you know, I got to post my weekly number or whatever. And well, if it went up, that's not going to look so great and people might judge me and things like that. I think there's a lot of that at play.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, we're conditioned our entire lives that the best way to measure your fitness level is to get on the scale and see how much you weigh in comparison to your height.
Yes.
I mean, that's fundamentally beat into us ever since we're, you know, kids in elementary school and we're having to do those physical fitness tests, you know.
Yeah.
And then here we are at this stage of the game, you know, where we're obese. We know that we need to lose weight. You start off with a measurement on the scale, and that's your fundamental measurement going forward. Well, then you start tracking that progress. You know, and when you start getting to the point where you're not seeing those numbers change on the scale as often, you feel this amount of defeat.
Sure.
I mean, it's the strangest, most bizarre thing. And so when I started stalling, you know, and I've done a couple like little tricks or whatever to try to reset my metabolism and get things going, but ultimately it just goes back to stalling out right now because I'm gaining muscle mass. Now. It's apparent, like when I see it in my arms, I can see it in my legs, like I am literally gaining this muscle mass and I'm cutting, but the scale's not moving. I literally vowed that I was not going to post anything about my weight loss, my actual number on the scale on Instagram right now.
Yeah.
I'm just not doing it. And I think we feel this pressure, especially for people that are just starting their journeys, that, you know, it's just par for the course. These people start reaching out to me saying, oh my gosh, you motivate and you inspire me. And I watch your stuff all the time. And which is super flattering. And I mean, that's the most humbling thing that anybody could ever tell you is that you inspire them.
Yeah.
You know, but there's this innate pressure then at that point that, oh my gosh, I really am being watched. And I really do need to set a good example for somebody else, you know, and my concern is I don't want to set an unrealistic example. I want people to see the struggles that I go through. So I will get on my stories or whatever, or I'll post something and be like, yeah, my scale's still not moving. But
yeah,
I try to focus on the positive things and try to, you know, exemplify what I would like to see, which is other people that aren't seeing a change on the scale, but they're seeing improvement in their fitness level.
Definitely. I know for me, like, I feel like I still will post it no matter what the number ends up being. And it's for that reason of, as far as, you know, showing that there's not only just good, because I think sometimes a lot of folks will want to focus on only the good stuff. And I'm like, I'll find the bad stuff. Like on Motivation Monday, normally I'll go and find the most embarrassing picture with my belly hanging down on my freaking knees. Like I find these things that are the imperfect things, and I'll put them out there, especially the weight stuff. If I gain, I'm just like, hey, look, I gained. This week I gained 2 pounds. I mean, I feel that it's necessary, at least for me. I've got to put it out there because it helps keep me in check. But it also, I think, will show others that, hey, it's okay if it goes the other way. It's okay. Just you got to keep going. It's a patience game. It's such a long game. You got to be patient ultimately.
And you know, it's different for people that are actively working out as
Yes.
opposed to people that are just dieting.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean by this. Someone that's an extremely close friend of mine. She's actually, I guess you'd call her my weight loss best friend.
Okay.
She has only been focusing on her food and on her diet. And when I say only focusing on that, I mean she is to the detail tracking everything that goes into her mouth. She stays at her goal. Her macros are on point 100%, and she is killing this weight loss game.
Wow.
I mean, Every day she's consistently got some sort of a loss. I
No
mean, I could not
kidding.
be more proud of her. It is unbelievable, but she doesn't work out. Okay. So she is just focusing on the diet because her goal was, let me focus on losing weight first. And then after that, and I get to the where I'm comfortable, then I'm going to start turning on like the weightlifting and everything and try to get myself toned up. And I've got nothing but mad respect for that because she's proof that it does work.
No, I think that's great. I think everybody's got their own way of doing it, and I think that anybody that's going to criticize somebody else for the way they choose to do it. I mean, I get DMs all the time, people saying, "God, you're on the stairs again." Like, is that all you ever do? I'm like, hey, it's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know?
Exactly. And I think that we all have some goal that we're going for that's unspoken from just a number on the scale.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, I really don't care what my final weight's going to be.
Okay.
All I know is that I want to be healthy, I want to be active, and I want to look good, like really good.
Yeah. Who doesn't want that?
I mean, I'm all about the vanity side of it too. So, I mean, those are more important to me than when I get on my scale, what kind of feedback I get. So, and other people have motivations from the opposite view, and I respect all of it as long as they're doing what it takes to get themselves to a healthier place. And, you know, I can't express enough how capable we all are of doing it. You know,
definitely.
And it's truly one of those situations where it's mind over matter. You've just got to dig in and realize that you can do it, and it's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's not.
Just be freaking patient, you know?
Because you've been at it for, you said a little bit over a year now, or a little bit longer than that?
Yeah, I had vertical sleeve gastrectomy on October 19th.
Okay.
And I was not blessed with being able to have my insurance pay for it. So I didn't have any prerequisites, like I had to lose a certain amount of weight or anything beforehand. So
Right.
I went into surgery at my highest weight, which was 347.
Okay. And I'm sorry, and if you don't mind me asking, like about the surgery, because I'm not an expert in this kind of field. Like, how does the surgery work basically?
Okay, so vertical sleeve gastrectomy, essentially, for just to be a crude way of saying it, is they lock off the majority of your stomach, the stretchy portion of your stomach,
Okay.
That's away from your esophagus. So basically, the portion of your stomach that's close to your esophagus becomes like a tube. All that stretchy round stuff that sticks off the side is basically gone.
Right.
So they lop it off and they stitch it up. So you basically, your stomach's now in the shape of like a banana.
Okay.
So once you're healed and like a year out, you can eat anywhere from like 4 to 6 ounces of food at a time.
Yeah.
And that sounds like it's not very much food, but in reality, like if you look at serving sizes and portions, that's actually a fairly normal portion of food. It's really not as small as people like to think it is. But when that happens, you know, you've got to gradually graduate from, you know, liquids only to soft foods, pureed foods, you know, and eventually get yourself back up to where you're eating solid foods again.
Yeah.
And the surgery itself, it prevents you from being able to overdose on a food, right? At this point, we can't eat an excessive volume of food anymore.
Right. I mean, because if you did, it would mess your whole stomach up, right? I mean,
well, yeah, in the beginning, you could potentially rupture yourself, you know,
Oh, no.
so
Okay,
that's
yeah.
obviously a horrible thing.
yes.
But, you know, you can still stretch your stomach somewhat, just not like with like gastric bypass where you have a lot of stretchy stomach left. You don't
Yeah.
have that with the vertical sleeve.
Okay.
So it's very difficult to stretch out. You have to basically really be working at it. The one thing that the surgeries don't do, though, is it does not control the quality of the things that you put into your mouth.
Okay.
So you can have surgery all day long, but if you're still sticking ding-dongs and ho-hos or some sort of snack treat up in your mouth every single time,
Yeah.
you're going to defeat the surgery and you're not going to lose weight. And so while it does reduce the chance of you being able to eat too much volume of food, it does not take away everything else you have to do, which is make smart choices and move.
Yeah, and I guess talk about the mental game with that too, because like when you're talking about you can only do the liquids for such amount of time, and then like how do you process in your mind? Okay, now I have to change how I do it, because obviously there's the health ramifications, like you said, you could potentially like rupture it and whatnot. But I mean, like, how do you prepare yourself mentally for all that?
I don't think that you can completely prepare yourself for it, especially being an obese human being going into it. You're never going to be completely prepared for the process.
Right.
Now, before surgery, you typically have to go on a pre-op diet, and those pre-op diets are typically just liquids.
Yeah.
Serves two purposes. Number one is to try to get your body to drop a little bit more weight right before surgery. It reduces the size of your liver, so it kind of gets that out of the way for the surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's also to help you get prepared for the lifestyle that's coming up after surgery. So when you have surgery and you're coming out of the recovery for the first few days, I mean, you're miserable. Yeah. You're having to teach yourself, okay, today I have to have 24 ounces of liquid. I have to get in somehow 24 ounces of liquid. How am I going to do that? The next day you progress up to 48. The next day, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You literally go from like an 8-ounce cup one day to like 3 8-ounce cups 2 days later, and you're sweating. You're like, how am I going to get all this stuff in,
Yeah.
And you're retraining yourself like you have an infant stomach. Like, little babies, when they feed too much, they get sick.
Sure.
You're kind of going to go through the same process. So that first week or two is really depressing. There's no getting around it. If you're not depressed on day one, I can almost guarantee that 5 days post-op, you're going to be depressed. You're going to be miserable. You're going to be like, you're going to have the, why did I do this? Everybody has that, why did I do this?
I can imagine.
Every commercial on TV's got to be a food commercial.
Yeah.
The least little thing can make you sick. Like, you really are miserable for those first few weeks. Some people, that sickness kind of feeling lasts for a month or two. I was blessed and I wasn't one of those people, but the first 2 weeks was hard. I've never felt that kind of depression in my entire life.
Wow. And how long would you say that it took you to kind of get back to just like a normal mindset? Like, okay, I can do this. I'm ready to go. I mean, was it just 2 weeks, or how long did it take you to kind of recover mentally from all that?
I would probably say about a month. And it was when I started being able to eat a little bit more sustenance, because your body's so weak because you're not able to eat a lot of things that you need. And while that doesn't sound very healthy, it's okay for a short term.
Sure.
But you have zero energy. So on top of not really feeling good because you've had major surgery and you're trying to recover from it, you've got zero energy. And it's the most horrible feeling in the world. So when you start progressing to pureed foods, like that day they tell you, you can have soft foods or whatever. I have never been so excited in my life to eat a scrambled egg.
Yeah.
A scrambled egg gave me life. I felt like a completely new person just because I was able to eat something that had some texture to it.
Well, scrambled eggs are the best eggs. I don't know where you fall on that, like as a whole, but for me, that's like the best egg ever. I'm sorry.
I didn't even like eggs before surgery.
No kidding.
Now I love them. Like, it gave me a whole new perspective. I have a whole new respect for the chicken. I love it. It's,
Yeah.
But I mean, it was the scrambled eggs and the refried beans. Like, those two things were the best things post-op. I mean, it was so fantastic and life-giving. And then, as you could gradually add some more things, like that day I could actually eat salad. Oh, wow. I was so excited that I could eat salad again.
Yeah.
And I think that you can walk away from that beginning stage one of two things. Either go nuts eating all this food that you're really not supposed to eat because you can finally eat again.
Yes.
Or you can walk away with it with a newfound respect for food. At this point, you're probably detoxed from all the carbs that you used to eat on a regular basis. So you're not the addiction's not there anymore.
Yeah, right.
You've gotten the carbs out of your system. So now you're actually using food as fuel. You're actually recognizing that energy you're getting from food, and it allows you to make better decisions.
Definitely.
So it's very neat, and I think that's the reason why I enjoy documenting everything on Instagram, because it's such a unique process for people to go through, but it's so effective if used correctly.
I couldn't agree more. And as far as, the whole year since you've had it, you've never had any kind of problem. Everything's just been, pretty smooth sailing ever since.
Yeah. I mean, I've followed my doctor's orders to a T.
Fantastic.
there's been, a couple of meals where I might have had like a cheat. And by a cheat, I mean like a bite of a dessert here or something like that.
Sure.
But for the most part, I did exactly what my doctor advised me to do. And every doctor gives a different set of rules. And everybody on Instagram thinks that their doctor's rules are gospel and try to say, this is how you should do this. And why are you eating that when you post things on social media? So you have to have a thick skin when it comes to that stuff. But bottom line is that if you're given a tool and here's the rules and how you play the game with that tool, if you follow it, you're going to have amazing results.
Well, I can definitely tell by your postings, like your Transformation Tuesdays, Face-to-Face Fridays. I mean, I can definitely see a huge difference. I mean, you must be feeling amazing right now, because I know just by looking at the pictures, I see a huge difference. Quality of life must be through the roof for you right now.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. But you know how you mentioned earlier about how tired you are when you leave the gym?
Yeah.
I'm tired all the time. Like,
yeah.
People will be like, oh, you must have all this newfound energy since you've lost 120 pounds. And I'm like, no.
No.
People go, well, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, you don't understand. I spend like 10 hours a week killing myself in the gym. I'm so tired all the time.
I know we put ourselves through so much work. But you know what? I get this kind of weird thing after some workouts where I get done and I'm like, I could go for another hour.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like that.
Those endorphins. They're so amazing.
That's so true.
Yesterday I was being a whiny pants yesterday, and I was like, I don't want to go to the gym, and I'm on my storyline and I'm complaining about it, and there's some days you're just still going to have bad days. Like I went and I worked out and I left the gym and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm still in a bad mood.
Yeah. No, that was Saturday for me. I went, I felt like I was 50% effort. I mean, I still got it done. I didn't do really anything less, but I had made the mistake of going every single day last week, and I don't advise that to anybody. I mean, I always say to everybody, do what you feel, listen to your body, but I would never advise, especially if you're not used to it, because man, I was Sir Grumpy Pants by Saturday morning for sure.
Yeah, don't you like you're just escalating and you're on this upward climb and you're just feeling so great, and then all of a sudden you hit that point of I went one day too far.
Yes.
And I feel like that cliff climber game that used to be on The Price is Right.
Oh, I love that game. Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm that guy, and I'm riding the high, and I'm like, yeah, I'm killing it. This is awesome. And then all of a sudden I just drop off the edge. I have no idea what happened. And I'm like, I should have taken a recovery day. Why didn't I do that? Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough because sometimes your mind will play tricks on you, because I always say, listen to your body first and foremost, but sometimes you'll think and you're like, okay, I feel like I could add a workout. I'm feeling inspired. I want to go do something extra. And then you might feel good at that point, but then after you're done, you're just like, wait a minute. Why did I do this? My body's like, I'm not ready for all this.
And then I have a couple weeks like what I'm going through right now, where it feels like every day I go in is an absolute struggle. I feel like I've reverted back and I'm climbing back up again. And it's very strange, but our bodies by nature strive for homeostasis. They just want things to stay normal and stay, solid. So the minute that you shake things up, that's when you start seeing these losses and these things shift around. But, if you start doing this, I'm going to work out every single day thing, your body's eventually going to stop losing weight. You have to stop. You have to stop to shake things up, because otherwise that's the norm. It's just waiting for you to show up at the gym again. That
is so true. Because I did the treadmill for, probably 7, almost 8 months straight. And finally I had to make a change, and I got on the stairs and I unlocked all this new weight loss. It was crazy how that worked out.
Same thing happens, like, say, with your water.
Yeah.
Say if you consistently drink 64 ounces of water a day. If you suddenly decide that this is the week that I'm going to drink 100 ounces of water every single day, I promise you, that's the week you're going to lose 5 pounds.
Yeah.
It's the minute you shake something up in whatever routine, that's when your body goes, oh, here we go. Something's changing.
That is so true.
And then eventually it'll reset and go back to normal, and then you have to shake something else up,
Definitely. One thing I like to ask to everybody I talk to, what's one thing that before the weight loss surgery, before you lost all the weight, that you couldn't do that now you can do, and it like blew your mind that you could do it?
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh.
What?
I don't know. There's been so many little things that I don't even know. Like.
Well, like I'll give you an example. Maybe this will help.
Okay.
Like I tell everybody, just being able to close my legs and put a laptop on my lap to actually do the name of the computer, which is a laptop, to put it in my lap, to have my legs closed together to sit on my lap. Like that's an example for me of like something that I was never able to do, and then the time that I could do it, it blew my mind. Or like last summer, and this is kind of before I met you and a lot of the people, so a lot of people may not be familiar, but I went to this theme park that's about, I don't know, an hour away, and 7 years ago I got kicked off a ride because I was too big, and I didn't go for 7 years. And then this past summer, I went nearly every weekend. I got a season pass, and I noticed throughout the summer I was slowly being able to fit on more and more rides, and then by the end of the summer I fit on everything in the park. So those are just kind of a couple of random examples of things that I couldn't do when I was bigger, but now suddenly I can do them, and it literally blew my mind.
Well, there's been a bunch of different NSVs for me, or non-scale victories.
Yes.
For those that are listening, NSVs. Definitely, I'm going to steal, though, what you said about the theme parks. And
Okay.
the reason why I want to reiterate on that is because it also kind of kicks back to what we were talking about before. I had referenced that I went to a weight loss surgery meetup in Orlando.
Yes.
And this was July. We went to Orlando, and one of the days, a group of us went to Universal Studios, and another day we went to Disney World.
Right.
And I had not been on a roller coaster or anything in probably 15 years. You know, I had a really almost being kicked off of a ride experience, and I was like, never again am I going to go and embarrass myself. Well, we were lucky because we stayed at Universal Studios on the resort. So we got to go into Universal Studios an hour early. So me and the group of girls, we ran straight to like the Harry Potter section.
Sure.
And they've got like the Dueling Dragons roller coaster there. Well, Universal is great because now they put the seats outside the ride, so you can test the seats before you even get on the ride.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to sit in that seat, you know, and, you know, I've got other weight loss surgery friends with me or whatever, you know, and I sat down, and the buckle went immediately and buckled, and I had all this room, and I just looked at them and I just started crying. It was
I know
just
that
like, that was
feeling.
it was like, that's unbelievable that I didn't even have to like worry if this thing was going to latch. It latched perfectly. And then it was wide open.
Yeah.
We rode every ride as many times as we could, as often as we could. It was a fantastic day.
That is amazing. I remember when I went, I want to say it was in August, early August, when I went to that theme park, and I went to the ride that I got kicked off of, and oh God, I tell you, I was so nervous waiting in line, and then when I sat in there and that thing clicked, I was nearly in tears. Now, this is one of those roller coasters where it starts to move and then it's like a blast off, so I didn't have any time to cry, but when I got off the ride, I was just in tears. People were looking at me like I'm crazy. I don't give a shit, but I was just like so emotional that this was a ride where I had to do the walk of shame and embarrassingly get off the ride while other people were waiting to get on. And this summer I was able to get on there and ride it and enjoy it. And that to me just blew my mind.
You know, it's not only were the rides so exciting,
Yeah.
but even just walking the park.
Oh yeah. Without being in pain and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. That day at Universal Studios, I think I walked 11 or 12 miles that day.
Wow.
You know, I looked
Huge.
at my watch and I was like, are you serious? I could walk 11 or 12 miles in a week at one point. And
Yeah.
you're telling me I did that in a day and I'm still on my feet and having a great time and not in pain?
Now I know your Team Apple Watch. How long have you had the watch? Was it been for your whole journey, or did you get it kind of like halfway through, or what?
I got it about halfway through. I want to say I got it around February or March.
Oh, okay. Because where I'm going with that is, like, did it change your workouts for you? Like, you know, in the sense of you're getting all this new data, like it's opening up your eyes to a lot of things, or like, you know, did it up your game, your workout game, essentially?
It did up my game. I was using a tracker before. I was using a Fitbit before.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just had like the basic level Fitbit, which is, there's nothing wrong with that for anybody else that has one, but
Yes.
it just didn't do everything that I wanted it to do, you know, and
Sure.
I didn't want to just keep track of my steps. I wanted to actually measure some more things. Well, I also had a Polar watch with a Polar strap,
Okay.
you know, and that's one of those watches that measures your heart rate. You got the strap that goes around your chest. So, I mean, I could use my Fitbit and use my Polar watch, but that was two different things I had to make sure were set before I started doing a workout. And so I was like, you know, I'm going to try this Apple Watch. And I bought like a refurbished one.
Yeah.
It's like a Series 1 or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And the things that it was able to help me track and measure, like my target heart rate. And then having that activity sharing feature where you can share your achievements with other friends
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and help motivate them and stuff. That is so fun to me. Like, I'm always responding to people and it's like, great job, you know, all that kind of stuff.
No, that's awesome. I look at my mother's on there because she was kind of part of the reason why I started this whole thing. We made a deal. She was like, I'll quit smoking if you go to the gym. And I got her a watch last Christmas and I added that feature. I don't have I just look at her stuff, but I go on there and I get the alert. It says Mom has completed such and such. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. But she can see mine as well. And she's like, oh, I see you closed all your rings today at like 10 a.m. You know, it's so
Yes.
cool though. I love to be able to see what she's doing on it.
Oh yeah, it's so fantastic. And you know, there's quite a few people in the weight loss surgery community, or weight loss community, I should say, that we're following each other's activity on here. So I've got my certain set of girls out there, they know who they are.
Okay.
That no matter what they do, if they close their rings, if they get a workout in, I'm always giving them, you know, encouragement back, and they do the same thing back to me. And it's those little things, like getting a little text message, thumbs up or whatever, when you complete a workout. Hey, that just means that somebody acknowledged that you got that done.
No, that's
or-
awesome. Yeah, that's really awesome.
It's really a neat feature, you know. So if you like some encouragement, I'll add you, Gary, and I'll be sure to double tap and give you some likes every time that you hit that 320 freaking floor achievement on the stair climber. Like, I'm so impressed by that.
How do you add somebody to that? What do I just send you, like, my number or something? We text? Is that how we communicate through it, or how does that work?
That or the email address you use for your Apple ID.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, I'll have to DM you that.
Yeah, and so you just basically add the email address, and it'll say, you know, Jessica Harrison is wanting to share their activity with you. You know, do you accept? And if you accept, then whenever you either complete a workout or close a ring,
Right.
there's a notification that comes. Or, you know, Apple has these built-in trophies, if you will,
Yes.
like
Oh, yeah.
awards. Anytime there's an award, it'll say Gary Gantrell just hit the 200% award or whatever, you know.
No kidding. All right. Well, you know what I'm going to do right now. So what I'll do is once we get done here, I'll DM you that. But I'm also, because I tend to be crazy and I like to think on the fly, for all my listeners, if you're listening out there, if you're Team Apple Watch like me and Jessica here, send me your information in a DM and I will add you. I want to now I'm like fired up. I want to add like everybody that I can possibly add. Let's do it.
It's a lot of fun. And I tell you, when I see like my girl Heather, my girl LC, or Brooke, if I see one of those girls that I know have been like killing it for like 3 or 4 days in a row, and I'm getting
Yep.
these notices, and I know I'm not completing anything, I'm like, not today. I'm catching up to you girls. You know, so it also entices like a little bit of you know, competitiveness too. And you also, I mean, you don't have to be motivating. You can jeer people if you want. You know, you can give like a thumbs down or I'm coming for you and stuff. So you have those options as well. But I like being the positive and uplifting
Yeah,
sort.
I would imagine on Tuesdays and Thursday, which are usually my rest days, I've been known not to clear rings on those days, but I'm open to thinking about how I can close those rings, but not kill myself at the gym to close those rings. So I'm going to figure that out. We'll stay tuned on that one.
Yeah, well, I'll just go ahead and tell you, you're not going to be impressed by mine, because there are plenty of days where I don't close my rings, but there are plenty of days that I do.
Well, you'll hear from me on the days that you do. I'm like you. I'm not going to be the negative one sitting there, you know, pointing at you and what are you doing? That kind of stuff. That will not be me. I will not be that person. I'm very positive, which is quite the opposite of the person I used to be, and I'm very open about that. But this whole journey has just opened up my eyes to a whole new way of living. It's insane.
Isn't it strange how by doing positive things for yourself, how it changes your entire outlook about other things and other people?
Oh my God, yeah, it's crazy.
You just get a whole new perspective for life in general. And I don't want to get all cornball and cheesy because, I'm not about that life. I'm not that Pollyanna sunshine sort. I'm a very real, down to earth person, but
I get that from your stories for sure.
I mean, it's the truth. I was never like super depressed or super emo, but I was very cynical about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I'm not as cynical of a human being as I was this time last year. And
no, I understand that completely.
It's just, it's euphoric and it's different and it's just a fun thing to share with people. And I'm just, living my best life right now. It's great.
I know it. I can tell you that, without boring you and the listeners to death, but I know that for many years, I thought always so quick to think of the negative of this, that, or the other thing. And just thinking just negatively and depression for so long, that this year has just been such an eye opener. It's crazy to me.
Well, I think I noticed too, like, and I don't like to compare like myself to other people.
Right.
But I noticed some of my previous qualities in other people, meaning when people ask me, so what are you doing now? And if I say, I work out like 3 or 4 days. Oh, well, I just don't have time for working out. So I give props to anybody that's got time to work out.
Oh, I hear that so often. Yeah.
And I recognize that, okay, that used to be me. I used to say that, or these people that instinctively in a defense mechanism explain why they can't do anything. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, well, that's good that you can do this, but that's not for me. I recognize that was me for a really long period of time because I was cynical, but now I know that I can.
I bet now you probably can't imagine missing a date at the gym.
I definitely have those days where I feel so guilty.
Yeah.
And just so unfulfilled. Like I just feel better if I go to the gym. There are some days though where I'm okay with not going.
Sure.
It definitely happens. But for the most part, like I've actually sat here and been lazy and I'm in front of the TV and all of a sudden I realize if you don't go to the gym in the next hour, they're going to close. You're not going to be able to get a work in today.
Right.
And I've jumped up, thrown on my clothes and head to the gym really fast.
I feel you on that. I know for me, my biggest problem was if there was like a concert during the week on one of my workout days and I'm like, all right, well, if the concert's on Wednesday, I'll just go out Tuesday or Thursday and get that workout in. But I always try to make it up. Sometimes I would feel super guilty if I missed a workout. And so far, knock on wood, I have not missed I think I've missed 2 whole workouts in this entire year, which is crazy.
Wow. That's really impressive.
It blows my mind because the old me would have been so quick to be like, well, what the hell, you missed it. Who cares? No big deal.
That person still pops up in my life every once in a while, so I think it's awesome that you've defeated that person.
I see him trying to poke his head out, and I'm like, all right, dude, you need to go somewhere else. I don't have time for you anymore.
You know what? My goal eventually is to be one of these people that gets up at like 4:00 in the morning and hits the gym before going to work.
Oh, I'd love that. I wish I could be that person.
I am so not a morning person. I've never been a morning person. I am more of a morning person today than I've ever been my entire life, and I'm still not physically able to do that.
Yeah.
I cannot get out of bed that early.
Well, see, the problem with me is like I have to get out of bed at 4 because I have to be to work by 6:30 and I have an hour something commute, so I have to be up at 4. So there's no problem getting up necessarily. It's just, okay, now do I want to get up at 2:30 or 3 so I can go to the gym and then go, make that hour commute to work? And I'm like, I don't know about that one.
No, I wouldn't.
I don't think I could make that happen.
No, I'm out on that. But The good part is you probably get off work early at a decent time, so when you go to the gym, it's not as packed, which is probably really nice.
Yeah, 3:30, and then I have an hour commute or so I get to there right before 5, 4:30, 4:45, and then get done by like 6, 7, unless it's like yesterday where I'm at the freaking Apple store waiting for my headphones, but that's a whole other story for a different time. Trying to get, I remember one of your stories way back where you had left your watch at home, and I was feeling your pain similarly in the sense of my headphones broke and I had to take them to the Apple store, and instead of giving me new ones or even loaner pairs, they're like, we have to send these for repair, and I had to use the same busted wired ones that come in the box that fall out of your ear at every given chance. And not quite the same scenario as when you left your watch at home that one day, but I would imagine something similar, close.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I work out with Beats headphones.
Same here.
But if I'm running, I don't like using Beats when I run because I feel like they fly off my head. So that's when I'll use my actual Apple earbuds. Right. And, with the new iPhone, I'd say new iPhone, I guess it was like this for, the 7 Plus 2, they changed the input to be the same as the power source or whatever. Uh-huh. Well, I'm all the time grabbing the old set of headphones and not the ones that actually work with my new phone. And so I'm always like, dang it. Well, now I can't run because I can't run with my Beats on, and it just throws off my whole routine.
You got to dig out that adapter that comes in the box and put it on your old headphones and just leave it on there.
I know. I was so excited the other day because I found it in the bottom of my purse because you know how women's purses are. They're like the black hole. And so
I've heard that. Yeah.
Friend. I was on the phone with my best friend, and I was like, you're not going to believe this. I found my adapter. I was so excited. I'm not sure if it's still at the bottom of my purse or if I actually threw it in my gym bag yet. But, it's funny. My gym bag is full of all kinds of stuff. It's just.
Really? Is it loaded down with stuff?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got 2 different sets of headphones. I've got, my gloves, my lifting gloves, all of my towels. I've got all these headbands and stuff because I'm a girl. Girls, we require a lot of things anyways. Yeah. So I really need some intervention on my gym bag.
I had that talk with myself, like, should I pack a bag? Should I shower at the gym? Should I get dressed at the gym? Because I feel like such a savage. Like I get dressed at work. I drive the hour. I get out of the car. I'm already dressed, gym ready. I get out of the car. I get right on the machine. I get right off the machine. I'm soaking wet. I get in the car. I have a towel on the seat so it doesn't soak to death. But I get in the car, and then I go home, and then I change. And I'm like, maybe I'm doing this all wrong. But, with the bag, though, I feel like that's like a whole new level of like, well, you got to pack it and make sure it's ready. You got to clean the stuff out of it. You don't want it to stink. There's like all these things, Jessica, that I'm sure you go through trying to get this thing ready, right?
Yes. It's one more responsibility in my life. And so there's some days where I'm like, forget it. I'm going to have to come home and change before I go to the gym. I just can't even deal with it today.
Yeah. I feel like I would give up on that. As good as I've become and responsible as I've become about going to the gym, regularly and all that stuff, it's never a problem now, but I still feel some of that lazy tendency in myself would bleed over into things like the gym bag. Like I wouldn't want to pack it correctly, or it wouldn't be ready, or I'd have the same dirty stuff in there day after day after day. So maybe I'm just going to keep doing the way I'm doing it now, and eventually I'll reevaluate. Because I go to Planet Fitness and they have these nice, locker rooms and nice showers, and I'm like, I should really use some of this stuff that I'm paying $20 a month for, and I don't use any of it. I just show up and I leave.
When I leave my house in the mornings, I look like an alpaca with all the stuff that I'm carrying. Like I've got my briefcase. Okay. Right. So it's got my laptop and all that stuff in it. I've got my gym bag. I've got my food, which is like, like my lunch bag or whatever. Yep. Then I have a bag with just all my blender bottles and water bottles.
Oh,
so
if
I'm going to the gym, like I have to have I don't know if you do supplements. I should probably ask you that. Do you do any kind of supplements for working out?
I've never taken any supplements.
Well, I take a bunch.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Everybody's got their own thing. Tell me about it, number one, and then, kind of what it does for you.
Sure. I take pre-workout, which is it's a mixture that you mix with like 8 ounces of water. You kind of, drink it really quickly within like 20 minutes of going to work out, and it gives you a boost of energy. I typically drink that before I work out. And And then during my workouts, I drink BCAAs, which are binary chain amino acids.
Okay.
And it's also a drink. You just mix it with some water, but it helps the repair and recovery of your muscle tissue. So, you know, if you're really out there lifting heavy, it's a really great thing to drink while you're lifting because you have less soreness during and after, you know, lifting. It also is helpful for me, like with cardio too, depending upon, you know, what kind of cardio. So definitely, something helpful for that. So I have a blender bottle that's got both of those powders in it. I've got one that's got the pre-workout. I've got one that's got my BCAAs. I've got my water bottle. And then I usually have a protein coffee bottle. So I have a bag that has just 4 drink containers in it.
Oh my goodness. That just sounds like a lot.
Like, it's a good thing that I lift or I would never be able to walk out my front door. It literally looks like I'm moving out every day before I go to work.
Dude, I've got a suitcase that would fit a small child. If you want that, you can put all your stuff in there. That might help you out. I don't know. And if I ever practice some of the stuff you got going on, I might need to use it myself because that sounds like a lot.
I'm always a little extra. That's how I live my life.
Sometimes you got to do that. Like I'll go away for a weekend, right? And I'll take the biggest suitcase. I'll pack 5 days worth of clothes for 2.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's basically my life. I always have to be, prepared for any sort of situation. I don't use half the stuff in my gym bag, but I have to have it because if I don't have it, that's gonna be the one day I wish I had it.
Yeah.
People
think I'm crazy. My pre-workout is a Snickers bar.
Hey, if it works, it works, you know?
Well, it's kind of like a little way of me to have a little something sweet, but there is, some protein in the nuts and things like that. And I don't know. I enjoy it. It works for me. What the hell? What the hell?
And I'm not going to, judge one way or the other. I take pre-workout because it's full of caffeine and I love caffeine. A lot of people are on the fence about whether or not you should have caffeine.
Right.
My doctor says it's fine as long as you drink enough water to flush it out of your system. So, and that I do.
Fair enough.
When I work all day and I have a pretty high stress demanding job.
Right.
And, so if I'm sitting in an office for 10 to 12 hours a day, and I'm expected to go to the gym and work out afterwards, I got to have a boost.
Yeah, you need something. You need something. What's your what's your diet like?
I typically, let me backtrack. At the beginning of my journey, I was heavy into the keto diet.
Okay.
So I lost a significant amount of weight following keto. I kind of deviated from that and switched it to just a low carb diet.
Okay.
Because I just felt like my body needed that extra energy from the right kind of carbs, So, typically I eat anywhere from 80 to 100 grams of protein a day.
Wow.
I try to stay at 60 grams of carbs or less. I don't really worry about my fat grams. But I do try to keep my calories at 1,200 net calories or less.
Right.
So if I'm working out and I burn like 1,000 calories, I've got to boost up my calorie intake or I'm going to stall out. I'm not going to have any loss from it. So
yeah, we're not too far off there. I'm usually around 1,400 calories a day.
Yeah. Because I'm sure you can attest when you're doing that kind of cardio that you do or whatever, and you're burning anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 calories at a time. You can only do that for so long before your body's going to stall and not let you lose anything. Why? Because it's going through shock and it needs more sustenance.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. I think November was kind of a rough month as far as seeing the number go up and down. But we kind of talked about that as far as the weight, the scale and all that kind of stuff. But November was kind of that for me, where I think I lost like a total of 2 pounds throughout the whole month, which would probably ruin most people's days, months, whatever. For me, I'm just like, well, you know what? I hit the scale in the beginning of December and dropped 4, so I was feeling okay about it. I wasn't too sore about it.
Yeah, and I guess everybody's macros and what works for them is different from person to person. And if I tend to stay between 1,000 to 1,200 calories, for the most part, I start seeing those muscular gains, and I start seeing the shifting of my body.
Yeah.
I may not necessarily see what I want to see on the scale, but I'm seeing things, visually with my body changing. And I'm like, okay, so I'm supporting I'm
Yeah.
supporting this work that I'm doing in the gym. It's not for naught, and that's the big thing is I want to make sure that I'm progressing some way or shape or form. So, definitely I think the highest day that I've had recently has been like a 1,600 calorie day. But again, that was after I had a substantial workout. So, for the most part, that tends to be what I do. I'm not very good with my water.
Yeah, I hear
need to
that a lot.
improve my water game. It's so hard.
What do you think the holdup is with it for you?
For me, it's the timing of getting everything in that I need to eat and drink and still be able to get things done at work.
Yeah, sure.
I can't chug anymore. I don't have capacity because I don't have that volume in my stomach. So in the past, when I knew I was behind on water, I could just turn it up and just chug it down and get through my water intake. Well, I can't do that. I have to do it sporadically throughout the day to be able to get 64 ounces in. And if by lunchtime, if I've not had 32 ounces by lunchtime, I'm not going to hit my 64 ounce goal.
Right.
It's just how it is. Now, I do have other things besides plain water that can count as water. I just try for myself to have 64 ounces of pure water, no additives or anything.
Yeah, I don't like to mess with the additives. Like I know for me, at the end of the year, I gave up soda last year, and I haven't looked back since. I'm coming up on the year anniversary of that. Once in a blue moon, I'll have like some sweet tea because I just can't give that up. But I really fell in love with just pure, regular ass water, like nothing in it, not even Crystal Light or anything like that. I've learned to like fall in love with just regular water. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Like I always enjoyed water, and then I had surgery.
Yeah.
And something happened with surgery. I'm not sure whether it's the taste or is it just the capacity issues that I have that kind of changed it for me. But now it's a struggle. Now I have to force myself to get all my water in, and I need to improve that for sure.
Definitely.
I can definitely tell like how dry my eyes are. If I like wake up and my eyes are dry, I'm like, you're not drinking enough water. You need to drink some more water. So
Definitely.
I try to watch those signs and try to improve it, for sure. But,
I'm with you on that.
You can't be perfect. You
No.
can't be perfect consistently all the time. You have to have struggles through this whole process. So, and that's, I guess, mine. That's going to be my one thing I'm always going to have to fight, I guess.
At the end of the day, the struggles, these are the things that make us stronger because eventually we'll learn to get through them and push through them, I think.
I think so too. And I think everybody's got to find their own way,
Yes.
And, when I went to my 1 year post-op appointment with my doctor's like, well, technically you can count your coffee. You can count your BCAAs and your pre-workout and your water intake because, in the first year after surgery, they push you to just drink water to try to encourage healthy habits. He goes,
Sure.
but really you can count that stuff too. And I was like, I don't want to count that stuff.
Yeah.
I need just water. My body needs water. I've got to do this. So
I feel you on that. I feel you. I'll tell you this. I'm so glad that we got to have this chat. I always like to wrap up the conversation, and I want to thank you. So you've been so generous with your time. Like I really appreciate. Like time is so valuable to everybody, and I appreciate you so much for that. So I'll leave it like this. Like when you look at a year, 2, 3 years down the line, what are kind of your goals now going forward? I mean, you've lost a lot of weight. You look great. You're feeling great. We've talked about that. Kind of what are the next 1 to 3 years look like for you, and what are some of your goals? What do you want to do? And not even just all weight loss stuff, but I mean like just in life. Like what are you looking at for the next few years?
Well, thank you. And I've enjoyed this. So again,
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me to do this. I know I talk a lot and I'm long-winded.
No, I'm happy with that because, I think you and I, like if we were people that like talked on the phone on a regular basis, it would be dangerous because I also talk a ton. People that listen to this podcast would probably be able to tell you that, but I just, we've done over an hour and I'm like, this is great. It doesn't even feel like it's been an hour. So I'm with you on that 100%. You don't have to apologize for that. I'm with you on that.
It's going to be like when you get off the stair climber and you get in your car when you leave the gym. You're going to be so exhausted when this conversation's over with. You're going to collapse.
I've enjoyed it. I think that the folks that are listening will get a ton of value out of this.
Well, good. Well, good. So I guess my goal at this point is just to live a happy life. And I know that sounds so cliche and corny, but
Sure.
you know, I mean, technically speaking, I think my goal is to maybe lose another 40, maybe 50 pounds. And
Okay.
I think that's actually kind of pushing it because, you know, I know, you know, a lot of us use an excuse of I'm thick boned or I'm big boned or I'm, you know, broad or whatever. So, you know,
Right.
I really am. I'm just a naturally larger framed woman. So I don't think that I really need to drop an excessive amount of weight still.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of judging it. At this point, I'm not putting a number on where my weight loss goal is going to be. Just, I want to kind of just see where my body's at. And then, you know, I'll probably have to pursue plastics for some problem areas, you know, to kind of do some corrective action with some of my, you know, excess skin and that sort of thing.
Right.
You know, so those are the two, you know, I guess you'd say fitness or weight loss things that are on the horizon over the next few years.
Yep.
You know, I'm single. I don't have any kids. You know, I think at this stage of the game, I'm probably not going to have any kids of my own. Like, so if I do change the single status at some point, I may look at maybe adopting in the future or something.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm not going to be putting my body through so much shock right now. And then my choice is not to try to rush things or try to, you know, have a child right now or
Sure.
anything like that. Like,
Sure.
just let things progress naturally and see what happens, you know. But I'm just living my life, you know. I've introduced so many new things to my life and new people and new experiences. So I just like to see what's going to happen and not necessarily fit, you know, my future into a mold, you know.
Sure. No.
When growing up, you you always, you know, people always say, oh, I'm going to be married by the time I'm 30, or I'm going to have kids by this date, or I'm going to go and travel here. And I've just never been that person to say, here's my timeline that I've got to get this done.
Yeah. I know with like the weight loss, I never put like a specific number. I'm like, you know, in 2 or 3 years, I'd like to be here, but I never said in 1 year, I must do this. Like the hell with all that. Like just take your time, live your life, I think.
Yeah, you know, and I'm on a trajectory right now where I'm focused on my weight loss. So ideally, I want to be done as far as weight loss goes.
Sure.
By this time next year. I want to have this excess weight that I'm trying to lose gone because I obviously have to start working on the next chapter, which is plastic surgery, you know.
Yeah.
But if I don't accomplish those things within the set time frame, I'm okay with it. Other people may not be okay with it, but I'm okay with it as long as I'm living a healthy, fruitful, happy life.
I love it.
And there's just so much, there's so much about this world that we limit ourselves with.
Yeah.
Whether it's, do I fit in a booth, or am I going to ride this ride, or can I fit into these clothes? And I want to get to the point where I don't limit myself anymore, but I just live my life every day, you know.
Living the dream right there. You get to that point. You're living the dream right there. Just live.
Well,
and
financially,
enjoy.
I'm always going to have some limits.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. No. Believe me. Let me tell you, Jessica. That could be a whole other podcast. If you want to talk finance, we could sit here for 3 hours, and I could tell you about all the mistakes I've made in the last 2 years. Believe me.
I tell you, it's just, unless I'm going to hit the lottery tomorrow, I still have to show up to my job every day, you know?
No kidding.
But I guess I look at it as I have the privilege of being able to have a job. I have the privilege of being able to better myself and to do things to improve my life or improve the lives of those close to me, or, you know, for the greater good, you know, make some donations somewhere, whatever. I'm able to do, you know, some things that a lot of people can't. So I just try to keep perspective and just enjoy what I've got. Everything's such a blessing. I tell you. I
think that's phenomenal. And, you know, I will tell the listeners here that may not be familiar with your journey to check you out on Instagram. They can find you where? Tell all the listeners where to get you.
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah, I'm on Instagram and my handle is bye-bye-fluff.
I love that.
By the way, that's the same handle that I had 5 years ago with my original throwback Instagram account. It was always bye-bye-fluff.
No kidding.
Yeah, I just left it, just rolled with it, you know.
It's catchy. I like it.
But there's no punctuation in there. Just BYE fluff.
Okay.
On Facebook, I'm out there on Facebook as Jessica Harrison. You may have a hard time finding me. I don't know if I've got my privacy settings out there, but if you find me on Instagram, send me a DM or what have you, I'll connect with you on Facebook too. So
yeah, maybe we'll connect on there as well. I when it comes to the Facebook stuff, I know for many years I had that thing locked down like Fort Knox.
You had to.
Yeah, you really do.
Or else, like, your 5th grade teacher was like getting an invite or something, and I'm like, I'm not trying to connect with my 5th grade teacher right now.
Oh, I had an ex-girlfriend that added me from 3 different accounts. I was like, oh my god, what's going on here? But that's a different story for another day. So bye Fluff, and I want to tell everybody right now, you got to go follow Jessica. She is so inspirational. I get inspired by you daily. And your stories are worth the price of admission alone. Because like I said, though, your personality shines through them stories. I mean, you were going off on some girl that like didn't like your language in your story. This is about a couple weeks ago. And I was like, I got to talk to her. This is great.
Oh my gosh. Here's the thing about social media.
Yeah.
You have to go into it with a thick skin.
Yes.
If you're going to put your story out there, there's always going to be a hater. And it's funny because I am who I am. I'm not going to filter anything. And so occasionally you're going to come across an F-bomb.
Sure.
That's just how I roll, but for people are so brazen sometimes just to come out and say whatever they don't like about you. They don't even know you, but what they see, they don't like. So they feel that they are compelled to talk to you about it. I had one lady who was a quote unquote friend.
Yes.
And she actually sent me a message one day and said that she would give me money to go buy a new shirt because she didn't like the shirt that I was wearing.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh my God.
I'm like, did that just happen that somebody did not like my shirt and offered to buy me a new one?
Oh my God. Social media, folks.
The point of all that is that, there's always going to be something out there, that tries to bring you down or whatever. You just got to have thick skin and just keep pushing forward. So, and that's what I try to do,
Amen.
But I saw that you have a link to some shirts and stuff. I need to get one of those sweatshirts that says hard work always wins.
Oh yeah. hardworkalwayswins.com. That's where I don't promote it a lot. We can close on this. I see so many of these accounts on Instagram. They're always selling. They're DMing you automated DMs, buy my shit. And I'm like, I don't want to buy your stuff. So I almost never speak of these shirts, which is kind of the opposite when you run a business, when you have products. Normally you make it known that you have these products, but I go the opposite way just because there's kind of like that mentality of, well, gee, I don't want to be one of these spammy, selly people. So yeah.
Well, I mean, you advertise it by wearing it all the time.
Yeah, I do. I will wear it all the time. And that's usually that's how I've sold them, is that people will DM me and say, "Hey, where did you get that?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I actually created it and it's at this link, and I only will tell people that ask," which is really the opposite thing you should do. So, Jessica, if you ever develop a product or anything like that, I would recommend that you don't quite go to the extreme that I went to like never advertise your stuff. I had one person DM me and she was like, I just ordered a shirt, and she's like, why don't you promote these things? What's wrong with you? Like, I'm sorry.
In order to make money about a product that you have, people have to know about said product. I mean, we can work on this. I'm in business. I can help you out.
Well, fair enough. We'll talk some ideas, but only because you brought it up. Hardworkalwayswins.com, and I did put some new stuff on there. There's some brand new. I'm getting some more variety on there. People tell me different colors, this and that. So I'm working on all this stuff. It's a work in progress. So
awesome. Well, thank you for bringing the truth on the form of your sweatshirt, because it's the truth. Hard work does always win.
It is so true, and that was just something that I randomly said in a caption on Instagram, so I can almost thank a random Instagram post for that one. And I'm like, wait, nobody owns this? I went and trademarked it immediately. I bought the domain, and here we are. So there.
Well, Gary, you're lucky because the things that you get trademarked for, you could probably put on a T-shirt, and not offend anybody. But sometimes I get trademarked for things I say, and I can't put it on a T-shirt.
Yeah,
They're bad.
You gotta find one though. I feel like with your personality, you're gonna end up saying one thing catchy, and then when it sticks with you, immediately go and research it and see if anybody's got it. If they don't, pounce on it.
I'm gonna have to do that. I would take your advice.
Definitely, and I'll show you my T-shirt people. We'll get you set up. You give me business advice, and I'll tell you where to go to sell them.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Jessica, thank you so much. I've had a blast talking to you now for the last 90 minutes. This has been incredible. We should definitely talk again. I'm going to eventually have everybody that's come on this podcast do like a follow-up 6-8 months down the line. So, but even before that, I hope we can talk again. You've just been a blast to talk to.
Oh, it's been awesome. We should have a reunion tour because I'd love to have a conversation with you and Rachel, Hopeful Ray of Sunshine, at the same time because you both are like two of my favorites.
Oh my God, I love Rachel. She's tremendous. Absolutely. I was actually talking with her, I want to say almost a week ago, and we were talking about reuniting and doing another one, but I wanted to wait, just a couple of months, spread them out real nice. So we've had a lot of progress to talk about, but absolutely, we'll get you back on, we'll get her back on, and we can all get the updates and see where everybody's at. But in the meantime, at Bye Fluff, follow Jessica right now if you're not following her. I mean, my God, it's not like you need to help. You almost have 5,000 followers. I'm blown away by this. This is tremendous.
Me too. Me too. Trust me. It shocks the crap out of me all the time.
That's awesome, though. That's the truth. People can come there and just get inspired on a daily basis and see your great personality. Watch the stories, folks. She does. It's one of the best with the stories. I love your stories. So,
thanks so much, Gary. Thank you for being so motivating, and I can't wait to start tagging you on those iWatch activities.
Definitely, we're gonna. As soon as we get done here, I'm gonna send it right over to you.
All right, then.
Thank you so much, Jessica. It's been a blast.
All right, talk to you soon.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.